Ghana from 2012 to 2016. It was done in partnership with the UNFPA through signed agreement. It was a pilot program, NGO-led interventions and curriculum integration processes. Despite this record, the NDC orchestrated a national outcry in 2019, falsely attributing the comprehensive sexuality education to the NPP while distancing itself from its own foundational role. Today, that same pattern of political inconsistency is repeating itself through silence on state-approved materials introducing concepts society has consistently rejected. We, on the side of the minority, demand the following actions, grounded in constitutional governance and parliamentary accountability. There is an immediate withdrawal of all teaching and learning materials containing LGBTQ-related content, including redefined concepts of sex, sexuality, sexual orientation, sexual rights, and gender identity from all schools. When NACA brought their statement, as it were, to respond to Reverend Ntimfodwo, they made mention of the fact that the current manual has been withdrawn from the schools. And Dr. Park also made Ghanaians also know that even though it has been withdrawn, he referred us to an online version of the manual. In that online version, it is even worse. The definitions of what sex, sexuality, and others are is even worse in that online version. The minority is also demanding a transparent and inclusive review of all affected teaching and learning materials involving Parliament, religious bodies, traditional authorities, parents, civil society organizations, education experts, and teacher unions. The dismissal of the Director General of NACA and the chairperson of NACA board for failure of oversight and breach of public trust. We say so because NACA is now telling us, assuming without admitting, that the document was developed by the NPP government in 2024. If you don't believe in it, why then do you go ahead to go and even print them in 2025? That is causing financial loss to the state.
Let's stay on this. Member of Parliament for Asin South, Reverend GHOne Ntimfodwo, is questioning the intent behind content found in a teacher's manual used at the senior high school level, which he says promotes LGBTQI+ ideologies to Ghanaian values. Reverend Ntimfodwo, who first raised concerns about the material, insists the inclusion of such content cannot be dismissed as an oversight. According to him, the references in the teacher's manual point to what he describes as a deliberate attempt to indoctrinate students. His comments come despite assurances from education authorities that the content in question does not form part of the approved curriculum for students and is therefore not taught in classrooms. But the Asin South MP rejects that explanation, arguing that any material made available to teachers has the potential to influence classroom instruction.
Director General is incompetent. If he's competent, he would have known that even if he had met a material that was even developing from 2020 to even 2013 or 2020, for instance, before you take it to the press to print, you as NACA, you are the body mandated in the Education Regulatory Bodies Act to do the final review before you send it for printing. Check the copyright or publication year on this teacher manual, and you'll find out that right on the second leaflet, it is 2025. So even assuming even though it is falsehood, that you came to meet something being developed, which was not completed, and you found anything that was unwholesome, what do you do? Because you met it, you go ahead and publish it. That is most irresponsible. So what we are saying is that it appears that it is a deliberate attempt to poison the minds of our students, because the week one is already gone. The teachers have already taught these concepts to our students. And up to now, even though NACA conceded that they are going to recall it, they have not written any notice, any directive. GES has not written any directive to any headmaster or any regional director that they should enforce it and recall it. They have also not issued any directive that the very diabolical, poisonous LGBT concepts already taught. They should unlearn it and take those notions from the minds of their students and not provide a direction for what must replace. So all these things must be done. Then we must come to the table, have a transparent review of all the definitions. So they shouldn't just look at one.
Meanwhile, Minister of Education Haruna Idrisu says there must be no ambiguity in the definition of sex in educational materials used across the country. Speaking at a training session in Tamale on the Ghanaian Youth Handbook and the rollout of the guidance and counseling framework, the minister explained that the mishap, which occurred in a viral document developed in 2024, does not reflect the position of the ministry. He said going forward, all curricula, publications and communication within the educational sector must strictly adhere to the biological interpretation of sex to ensure clarity and consistency in teaching and learning.
If I wanted to be politically mischievous, I would just say that this was not produced by my era or tenure as minister, not by President Mahama, and that this curriculum was developed in 2024. But what is important is to answer the question, what is it that is good for Ghana and good for Ghanaian teachers and good for Ghanaian learners? I've asked NACA, the institution responsible, to take full responsibility for the controversy and to remedy with urgency. And accordingly, I'm told that NACA has determined that the definition of gender identity contained in the manual is not reflective of Ghanaian values and culture and our norms. Accordingly, the following immediate steps, I'm told, have been taken. There should be no ambiguity whatsoever regarding the definition of a man as in a man, a woman as in a woman, as in biological sex. And sex means biological sex. Reference to man, woman, sex means reference to the biological sex and the sex of a person at birth. Settled. So in every educational literature in Ghana must reflect same. So there should be no ambiguity whatsoever in the definition of a man, a woman, and sex. For our purposes, the sex of a person at birth holds. That depicts and reflects Ghanaian values and our norms. And that is how we want to bring up all Ghanaian players in an environment that they appreciate, that the morality of our society rests in the extent to which they uphold these values. So I thought that I should use your forum to respond. Accordingly corrected it. So reference to a man, woman, and sex is reference to a biological sex. So for
Education Minister Haruna Idrisu speaking there. Now, Divine Pe joins currently via Zoom for more on this. He is an educationist. Good evening to you, Divine, and thank you for joining here on News Tonight. You heard the Education Minister speaking there, making clear his position that there should be no ambiguity on this matter. From where you sit as an educationist, how exactly does this content come and make its way into this SHS teacher manual without being flagged at the point of curriculum validation? And what does it say about NACA and its systems as a whole?
All right, thank you and good evening. What it says about a system at NACA generally is that there is a weak layer when it comes to quality assurance in material development for our students or learners. For this to have happened at the development stage and then finally move through the assurance stage, quality assurance stage, and printed out and distributed to teachers. Generally, it says that there's a very big gap when it comes to quality assurance because NACA's own guideline when it comes to curriculum and assessment that they have developed, it clearly states that NACA must ensure that teaching and learning resources balance the need to provide challenging and engaging learning program for learners with the use of materials that do not offend learners and the wider community due to their obscene highly offensive or overly controversial nature. And they went on out to define what they mean by obscene and then controversial nature. And some of these issues they regard as a controversial issue. So if you have a guideline that is to guide you in material development, not just curriculum, but textbook, and then also novels. If teachers want to use novel in classroom, the novel must fall within this definition. If they want to even show film in their classroom, teachers must ensure that this falls within this definition. It doesn't portray anything that alienates your culture. Radio programs, multimedia, and any other thing. So if you have this provision, but at the end of the day, the material that you release into the public domain for use for our learners contains some of these issues, then we need to be worried. And basically, it says that the process for the curriculum development, or for that matter, any other material in this context, teacher's handbook, there's a very big lapse in the process. Because curriculum development or even the material development goes through several layers. The point of view assembly consultants to develop the material for you. The question will be asked, what due diligence have you done on the background of the people beyond their technical expertise? Because if you look at your own guideline, one competencies out of the 7 or 6 or so you want learners in our educational space, pre-tertiary educational space to develop is cultural awareness.
Right.
So that cultural awareness must guide your selection of people that come to the table to develop materials for you. Okay. So beyond their expertise, have you evaluated them that they are coming on board with some of this cultural context? Because most of these consultants may have been exposed to engaging with these international donor communities, right, and therefore they may have come across such definition, and as they go by it becomes normalized to them. They may have been engaging with academic literature, they may have been engaging with a global policy document, and so much normalize the definition like that. So when they are coming to your table beyond their technical expertise, have you evaluated their cultural awareness, knowing that that is one of the skills you want to imbibe in your learning? So it means that there could be a gap at that point of even assembling the consultant. And well then finally, when the material was ready, there could be a gap at the point of evaluating, ensuring the gap meets the cultural context before releasing. It tells that there's a gap over there that needs redressing.
Very well defined. Now, you clearly state there is evidently a loophole in NACA's entire cultural validation, curriculum validation process. Now, the Director General of NACA has apologized following the public outcry, and you are aware of the proposals and the call being made by the minority, some of which include dismissing the Director General as well as the board chair, all materials containing this LGBTQI plus contents being recalled, and other propositions made by them. What do you make of the calls by the minority? Are they valid, and should they be considered? And which of them should be taken forward, in your view?
All right. I wouldn't want us to overstretch it to become more of political issues. Once politicians take over issues, it takes political undertone, and then the real thing that needs to be done is overlooked. So I don't want us to dwell on their political tonation. This person must stay, this person must go, but call for the technical review of NACA's curriculum and any other material development process. For me, that is the strongest call I want to make. The NACA boss also continues to mention that, look, this was not developed by us, and that also absolving himself of some level of responsibility. But again, also accept responsibility. Ultimately, they apologize for the public. I don't think I think it's too stretched for us to be calling for heads to rule in terms of dismissal, but rather, we must all be interested in is an independent review of how curriculum is developed in our country, putting on the lens of cultural sensitivity to some of these issues. So the review must be done within this particular context. And I heard them mentioning that Parliament Select Committee must be interested in that. I clearly cite with them that they must be interested in that. And with that, they can begin to initiate conversation on how they review the process and come out with a report on how assessment is done, and then use that report to ensure review in the entire process of curriculum and any other material development for our learning. For me, that is the most important, because if you look at this is not the first time we've heard of this instance. So some years ago, we heard of a guideline on comprehensive sexual education that was developed, and it became an issue because age-appropriate materials were introduced, were not introduced, or materials that were introduced were not age-appropriate. And then also beyond that, there are issues if you monitor the media space, both social and traditional media. Parents continue to take pictures of textbooks that they feel that some of the content are not appropriate for their words. Some of these are still within the domain. Although NACA may not be the one that develops some of those textbooks, some of them were sanctioned by NACA
now,
or the private.
Divine, I would like to thank you. You do understand, for purpose of time, we'd have to wrap it up here, but thank you so much for your insight on this issue. Clearly stated that there are evidently some loopholes in NACA's curriculum validation process. That wraps up Insights for tonight. Do stay with us on News Tonight. Let's turn to some other stories here on News Tonight. The National Road Safety Authority has raised safety concerns over the use of Toyota Voxy vehicles for commercial passenger transport in Ghana, particularly on long-distance routes. According to the authority, many of these vehicles were originally manufactured as right-hand drive and later converted to left-hand drive, a process which may affect their handling and stability, especially at high speeds and in curves. As a precaution, the NRSA has set up a technical working group to investigate the matter and is advising motorists and the traveling public to exercise caution when using or patronizing such vehicles pending the outcome of the investigations. Let's stay on this issue. We are joined by Henry Asomeni, serving as the Deputy Director for Planning and Programs at the National Road Safety Authority. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining us here on News Tonight. Now, first of all, do you have any statistics that has clearly made the use of these vehicles a matter of concern?
Okay, good evening to our listeners and Happy New Year to all. As our statement read, if you look at it, it is out of public concern where reports to us that these vehicles are involved in a lot of crashes and it resultant fatalities. So what we sought to do now is to investigate and try and see what is happening. Is it the vehicles? Is it the drivers? Is it the roads that are causing these accidents? So if you look at it, what is in our statement is what people were trying to bring our attention to, that it could be that because it was a right-hand drive vehicle, change to left-hand stability issues, some driving issues. So all these are things that we want to investigate to find out. But, in Ghana, when a vehicle is brought into the country, it has some set standards that the DVLA will check that it meets. Even the change from right to left, the law allows that, but it has a standard that this change should be done within. And these are all things that the DVLA would check before they permit these vehicles on our roads, which was done. We are only coming in because of the public concerns that has come. So we need to assess it to find out what is happening, and if the findings could even inform some policy change in the direction of when vehicles standards in Ghana or the change right down to the hand. So for now, we can't say that it is really the vehicle that is causing it or any other thing. It's just out of what the public concern that we issued this cultural statement that as we do this assessment, we encourage drivers who are driving these vehicles to be extra cautious on the roads, although all drivers should be very cautious.
So, Henry, following the concerns that have been raised by the public, your assessment is now set to begin proper. And through within this process, you've set up a technical working group. Very briefly, in under a minute, what are you expecting from this group, and within what period are they to report their findings?
Okay, so this group are a group of experts from the DVLA, from the National Road Safety Authority, from the Ministry of Transport, from the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, from the Department of Mechanical Engineering, and then from the Toyota, the manufacturers of Toyota. So these are experts who we want them to delve into the issue to bring out something. As of now, we don't know what will come out of it. But whatever comes out of it, that would inform policy going forward. And we know the urgency of the matter, that if in case that the vehicle is really at fault, then it means that we need to speed up. So the committee would work as quickly as possible as soon as it is inaugurated. And it will be inaugurated within the coming days by the authority. Then they begin work. And the duration and everything will be within the terms of reference. When that one comes out, we will let the public know. But I can assure the public that it will be as treated as urgent as possible.
Thank you so much for your time this evening, Henry Asomeni, joining us on that issue. Now, the Deputy Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Private Road and Transport Union, GPRTU, Samuel Amwa, has refuted claims by Minister for Government Communications, Felix Kwashiorfosu, that the union is deliberately causing the current transport challenges through artificial scarcity. According to him, the situation is largely due to the high cost of vehicle spare parts, which has forced many commercial vehicles off the roads. He explains that several drivers are unable to repair their vehicles when they break down, resulting in many buses being parked at garages.
Help us by importing some of the vehicles and give it to the unions to run. See, it's an individual business that we do, okay? Government don't support us, in terms of getting vehicles to run the transport. So what we are saying is that we are pleading with the government to assist us by importing some vehicles and hand them over to the transport unions to run. Quite recently, we heard that the government is, bringing in some vehicles to be given to the Ayalolos and the Metro Masses and all that. But then what about the private sector? So, like GPRTU is not a small institution. At least government can, bring in some buses, hand it over to the GPRTU to manage. And let's see if these problems cannot be solved.
It's still live here on News Tonight with me, Natalie Fort. Residents of Teshi in Accra say frustration is mounting as they spend long hours in queues just to access potable water for household use. They complain that the water shortage has persisted for months with little to no intervention from authorities, leaving families struggling to meet basic daily needs. Khadija Idi has more in this report.
Water is essential to life, sustaining humans, animals, and nearly all living things. Yet in Teshi, a suburb of Accra in the Greater Accra region, access to this basic necessity has remained a persistent challenge for years. Residents say the situation has significantly deteriorated over the past 3 months. Since November 2025, complaints have intensified as many households bear the brunt of prolonged interruptions in water flow. With taps running dry, they are forced to travel to neighboring communities to buy a single jerrycan of water for about 5 Ghana cedis. In more desperate situations, some resort to purchasing sachet water for domestic use, an option they describe as costly and unsustainable.
It started last year till now. The water problem is really difficult for us here. It was just yesterday that we noticed that it was flowing. So we managed to get sometimes to even take your bath once to manage and store water for any other thing.
It gives panic attacks because you not know when your water will finish and when it will come. So you're always at the edge. You don't know how to wash your things. You always wash, leave some. You can't completely do. We are not at liberty to do whatever we want to do with water.
So when there is no water, or maybe the taps are not flowing, we take our jerry cans or our yellow gallons to go and get water maybe elsewhere. Places that maybe pipes are coming, we go there to get some water. It's not been easy, so sometimes we just have to balance ourselves and then see what we can do and then where to get water from.
Meanwhile, a man who turned the community's water shortage into water fetching business says the prolonged crisis is now affecting his livelihood. He explains that compassion for elderly clients who cannot pay often leaves him with little or no profit. He adds that he sometimes travels as far as Labadi and other communities to find water, making the work exhausting and unsustainable.
I do go to Labadi to go and fetch water. Now somebody will pay me, because if I fetch, they pay me. I'll take Motoking and go and fetch and come, and the person will pay me. Right now I'm fetching, if I finish, the person will give me money. Already affect me a lot because there's so many people, there are old people there, they are not able to go and fetch by themselves. They don't even have money to pay somebody to go and fetch for them. You understand? So if that kind of people, if you don't have sympathy for the person, you can't be able to do sacrifice for the person.
Residents also
Khadija Idi with that report. We bring you business news next.
The Business Brief is brought to you by CompuGhana, passion for technology.
You're watching News Tonight here on GHOne TV. The details in the business segment now. Commuters can expect further relief at the pumps as the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, COMAC, projects another round of fuel price reductions in the second pricing window of January 2026. COMAC forecasts that between January 16 and January 31, petrol prices could fall by up to 2.30%, diesel by at least 1.97%, while liquefied petroleum gas LPG is expected to decline by between 3.10 and 5.09%. The projected reductions, according to COMAC, are largely driven by the continued appreciation of the Ghana cedi, as well as declining prices of finished petroleum products on the international market. Although crude oil prices have recorded some increases, international petroleum product prices remain on a downward trend. Petrol declined by 1.07%, diesel by 0.68%, and LPG by 3.40% over the period under review. In some more business news this evening, former parliamentary candidate for Asojaman, Pius Enam Hajide, is accusing the government of deceiving Ghanaians with what he terms optics. He argues that things are worse off under this administration than under his former boss, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. He avers that what Ghanaians are currently witnessing is pure optics and not a true reflection of the reality on the ground.
What is happening in this country today? Optics and settings, okay? It is optics and settings. If you are taking money to support the CD, and now there is a fight between the Bank of Ghana and the Gold Board as to whose liability it should be, it is not sustainable. It's optics. Okay. If you say that you are not going to appoint deputy ministers, but at the regional levels, you have presidential staffers at the regional level who are taking more money than deputy ministers were taking, you are deceiving the people. It's optics.
And some more business news. President John Dramani Mahama has constituted a new presidential advisory group on the economy, PAGE, which he will personally chair as part of efforts to steer Ghana's economic recovery and long-term growth. According to the presidency, the advisory group will provide strategic guidelines on macroeconomic management, fiscal consolidation, debt sustainability, and coordination between fiscal and monetary policies. The group will also advise on industrial development, competitiveness, export growth, private sector expansion, investment mobilization, and sustainable job creation. Membership of the 12-member advisory body is drawn from academia, public service, and the private sector. Members include Vice President Professor Jane Nana Poku-Agyeman, private sector leaders Ishmael Yamson and Kwame Pianim, former Deputy Minister of Finance and Trade and Industry, Nana Oye Mansa Yeboah, former Finance Minister and Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Kwabena Dufour, and industrialist Sir Sam Jona. The rest are former Bank of Ghana Governor, Dr. Henry Kofi Wampa, economist and private sector leader, Togbe Afede XIV, Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Stock Exchange, Abena Amwa, university professors Priscilla Chumesi Bafo and Patience Aswe Abure, as well as former World Bank infrastructure specialist Atto Brown. The presidency says the advisory group is expected to play a key role in Ghana's engagements with international financial institutions, development partners, and investors. And that's all the business news we've got for you this evening. Do stay with us.
The Business Brief was brought to you by CompuGhana, passion for technology.
In Ghana, our gold
You're welcome back. In entertainment news this evening, long before streaming charts, TikTok challenges, filters, auto-tune, and flashy visuals, Ghana was already creating timeless music. High life, hip life, pure classics, and the stars we celebrate today did not arrive by accident. They grew from the sounds that came from them. From Daddy Lumba's unforgettable melodies to Obrafour's powerful storytelling to Nana Echampong's iconic hooks, a lot of the songs that you love right now carry the spirits of those originals. So, on Throwback Thursday, we trace how old school gems found new life in modern hits and how Ghanaian artists continue to honor the culture through samples, interpolations, and pure homage. Nana Yao Asari has more.
Sampling is more than borrowing a beat.
Front, the United Nations has warned that food aid in Sudan is at risk of running out by the end of March unless urgent funding is secured, threatening millions of lives in the country. We've got lots more international and local stories available on our website. That's starfm.com.gh. Many thanks to you for making the time to watch News Tonight this evening. It was produced by Emmanuel Ejabing and Stella Bochwe and directed by Emmanuel Soa. Engineered by Benjamin Osei Bonsu. I'm Natalie Fort. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful evening.